In this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by David Chalk, who is a serial entrepreneur, and he's an innovator, and he's about to lead the charge on using artificial intelligence to help people to learn how to read. David, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Stu.
What would you say is your job these days?
My daughter and son ask me that sometimes. If I really had to say anything I can do to help people get ahead in life, because I suffered as a child, that would be it.
Does that mean you're a philanthropist, or
I
you
wish.
just what?
No, it means imparting knowledge that I have gained, mainly through suffering, but helping others get over problems that they might face, whether it be in business, whether it be in learning, whether it be in technology. Any of those is my passion, and out of that, I've been able to carve a number of different careers.
So I'm going to steal a line from Sports Illustrated. The editor-in-chief of the Sports Illustrated was just a brilliant writer, and he always said there has to be a central theme in every story that you write about an athlete. Mm-hmm. And that was, what's the challenge, the biggest challenge you face, and what do you do on a day-to-day basis to overcome it? So based on your desire to help other people, what is the biggest challenge that you face in doing that, and how are you going about on a day-to-day basis to address that?
Yeah, it will probably sound a bit harsh because people like me tend to be hard on ourselves, thinking I'm stupid, being told that my whole childhood, you can't shake it. So every day, either reading now or online or books, I probably spend, sounds ridiculous, 3 to 4 hours a day learning voraciously, usually in areas that I want, which is education, learning, and technology. And that inspires me. And through that, I get my ideas. Through that, I share it with other people. I mentor, I coach. And now, as you said, I'm developing with artificial intelligence a system that I believe will revolutionize all of North America in the way reading is taught.
So let's take a look at sort of your career progression. When you left high school, what did you envision were your prospects?
Well, I had high hopes. But on graduation, I was brought into the counselor's office and told that people like me don't have a fair chance in life. It wasn't condescending or negative, but he was warning me that I would probably end up dead in jail or on the street. And there really wasn't much said about it. I hadn't been a child acting out in school. I just could not get grades. I passed because the teachers liked me, I think is what happened, but I couldn't write the tests by any means. So my desire was to be an aerospace engineer because physics, math, science, I loved it. Couldn't do it. So upon graduation, I did everything I could and I became an airline pilot. And I realized it was so easy for me because of a spatial awareness I seemed to have. You can't teach yourself to fly, but I pretty well did. And on doing that, my mom said, well, why don't you try university? And we knew I couldn't, but she said, challenge the exam. So I did, and it was a complete mess. But as I've said on a couple of interviews, that I answered one question on the test that had never been answered by anyone applying to that UBC, and I solved it. And with that, I think in some way it vindicated me and validated me. It wasn't enough to keep me out of that suffering, but it sort of drew a line in the sand and said, you're not as dumb as they said you were. Now you can do anything you want to do. And right after that, I started into computers. I bought an Apple II computer, took it apart, realized I could probably build one, started building computers, and the rest was history.
You took it apart?
Yeah, first thing I did.
So you reverse engineered it? Mm-hmm. Holy
I want to see how the chips work. I had my little voltmeter out, seeing what happened with them, and started building them.
And that led you to start to build and sell computers?
My brother, we talked about it, and we decided that computers were not quite coming of age, but I was reading articles about people interested in it and what was happening. VisiCalc, an accounting program or spreadsheet program, had made it onto the market. And I said, you know what? I think we could build computers and teach people how to use them, not just sell them to them, but guide them and teach them how to use it. And it will be, as Bill Gates said, there'll be a computer on every desk. He got ahead of me on that one. But Yes, I knew that technology and computers were going to be in our hands one day.
So this was at the time that the PC was just emerging.
Before, yeah.
Before. It still wasn't
The
there
IBM PC hadn't come out yet.
with the floppy disks and everything,
Yeah.
like nothing.
No, I started on an Apple I and a Commodore, and that used a cassette player
Right.
to back it up on.
Wow. And so what did you do with that? You started to build these computers. Did that turn into a business that...
I wouldn't have believed it, but we did, and I put it in the buy and sell, a Vancouver publication. Within a couple of days, someone bought it, and I went, okay, validated. Let's find some parts. So I contacted overseas, started finding the parts. My brother and I started building the computers, and yeah, we took the company well over $100 million before I was out of it.
In what kind of timeline?
Well, there were steps in place. It took probably 7 years to get it to maybe $10 million. And then from 10 to 50 took about 2 or 3 years. And from 50 to 100 only took about a year.
Right.
The momentum.
And that ultimately became Doppler Computers?
Yeah, it
didn't
was from the very beginning. It was called Doppler Computers. Yeah.
How many stores were you running in?
Well, it got complicated. Doppler we opened the largest store in Canada. It was 38,000 square feet, the first superstore.
On Cambie there.
On Cambie Street.
Yeah.
I had investors for that one. I then bought 3 companies, and I learned about buying companies. That was a process to go through. And then there was a U.S. company called Ballard Computer. It was ranked like the 3rd most creative and largest at the time computer retailers in the U.S. It was in Northwest. It went from top of California, Oregon, Washington, and over into Idaho. And they were facing Chapter 11 bankruptcy, which I knew nothing about. But being a risk taker, I drove down and talked to the owner, and I made an arrangement to take it over, and I took it out of bankruptcy. I don't know how I did it. That's all part of being an entrepreneur. But yes, at that point, I think I ended up with 14 stores.
And what was the conclusion of that business? Because it's not a name that is in the marketplace now.
Sadly, this is all lessons. We talked about it before. I didn't read well, and contracts require some very sophisticated reading. And I had brought in partners to invest in the company. They were significant, but they had a change in plans of how they wanted to grow the company. They wanted to scale it back. I said no. They had a clause that could terminate me, even though I was the president and CEO of the company. I was fired from my own company. And I think within about 8 months to 1 year, the entire thing went bankrupt.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop you because I recall doing an interview with you back in about 1990 when your store on Cambie Street was really hitting the market, and I was a reporter, interviewed you about I'm going to do a series, so you want to buy a computer. What do you need to know? And in the vein of what you like to do is to teach, you glommed onto that right away. And the next thing I remember seeing, I can't remember exactly the timeline. There you are on television teaching people exactly what they needed to know about this emerging and incredibly significant part of our lives, introducing the use of computers into day-to-day life for everybody.
Yeah.
You developed Chalk Talk TV.
That was another one, that a mind that can be free can do incredible things. How it started was, I thought, you know what, I need to spread far and wide. Television would be the way to do it. I phoned up a couple companies in Vancouver to ask them if they would help me produce a TV show. And they were quite rude, saying that, you know, you're a technology guy, you have nothing to do with technology, stay there. So I rented cameras, I rented lights and sound from a production company in Burnaby, hired a camera guy, set it up in my house, had no idea what I was doing. I said, roll, and I loved it. From there, that show stayed on the air for more than 12 years. It was syndicated across Canada, the US, South America, China, and 14 airlines in the world carried it. And it became, I wasn't in it for ratings, but TV Guide ranked it at one point the 34th most popular show on television, a computer show.
That you started
That I started
basement.
in my house. Yeah. That is the entrepreneurial way. What we do is we solve problems. That's the real entrepreneurial thing, solving problems. Building computers, helping people learn them, needing to do it more, creating a TV show, creating software to help people to read, solve a problem. If you're passionate about it, then you'll end up enjoying it.
And you shifted into property or real estate development then.
That was a downfall, most definitely, yes. That was the contract thing again. So in the late 2000s, I had done pretty well everything in technology. I was still coaching, mentoring, and speaking in it. But I really am mechanically inclined as well. So machinery, aircraft, all of that. And I thought, I'm going to start a highway construction company, build bridges and roads. And I had this big picture in my head. I went out, brought all the technology in that I possibly could to do it, from GPS to tracking to every type of laser there could be. And within the first year, I'm only telling you the numbers just to see how big and how quickly it can go. I think I was doing like $20 million in business. And that was 2009. And the economy took a shift. I was the new kid on the block. I don't think anyone had gone into that industry in 20 years. So when it started to dry up, it dried up on me. And a couple of the contracts I had said that I had to have a certain cash flow and performance level. It was drying up. Well, that's when you lose it all. That's when you really learn the lessons.
Yeah, but you didn't stay down for long. You pick yourself up, dust yourself off. What'd you do next?
I went into graphics design, not design, but I created a company that did graphics for the Olympics. So if you remember downtown in Robson Media Center, the stairs, the walls, my company produced and designed all those. It was just me and a friend doing it. That was the next step. And then I realized, no, I got to get back into technology again. And I went into developing software that would manage learning online and grew that up into a company that I sold to BlackBerry.
Wow. So when you take a look at your career, what do you think has been your most important personal characteristic in your ability to see opportunity, but then go out and realize it?
I think I know what it is, but it may not line up. It's, even though I have so much self-doubt, somewhere inside of me, I do know I can do things, but this will tell me I can't. And I think if anything holds me through all of those is integrity and trusting what I say I will do. If I say I will do it, it will come to pass. And I don't use those words lightly. I'll work around something, I'll say, no, I'm in fully, and then it will go. And it's my always helping other people. I don't get there by myself, none of these. It's always other people. But I can communicate in such a way that I have a vision, and they buy into the vision, and then they add to the vision, and then it goes. And that is what I said about integrity. I never lie to myself other than saying I think I'm stupid.
Can I make an observation about you and your relationship with your mother and how she never bought into the idea that you couldn't be anything but exceptional? And I think about it in relationship to my own life. I went through serious challenges of self-doubt and self-confidence and so on, but I always had my grandmother who in somewhere in the back of my brain, she was going, I believe in you. You can do it. And it's that one voice. And so I think it's important to share that having somebody that's important to you who believes in you is so fundamentally important. And I hope for young people who would be watching this interview with you who are struggling with some of those same challenges, that if they have somebody in their life that believes in them and is rooting for them, they can realize that this makes a difference.
It's all the difference, because I can see it two ways. If I did not have that support, I would have given up on everything. She never gave up on me. It was always, David, school isn't for you. I'd come home, I'd be creative, and life would be wonderful. I'd go back to school, and it would be terrible. But I've seen it the other way. I've seen people whose lives are destroyed, and each time they will usually tell me that either one thing was said to them that was so undermining, they could never let it go, or they didn't have the support. And that is the reason that I had some sort of success versus the hundreds of millions of people in the world that don't. Because when you have that communication, when you have that support, you can get over anything. And you will do it if you have faith in yourself. So yes, for anyone out there, if there's someone in your life supporting you, lean into it. And if you can support anyone out there, I mentor so many people. I love doing it. That little bit of encouragement can change lives and set them free.
Thank you.
Thank you.